Hello, good evening and welcome to the March 31st, 2023 regular meeting of Town Council of Vegreville. Hopefully there's some viewers out there. We've had a few technical issues the last few months, but hopefully we got them fixed and we're back online here. So I'll be looking for a motion for the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Warren makes the motion. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next up, a motion for the adoption of our last minutes of a regular town council meeting. Councillor Lemko makes the motion. Any errors or omissions within those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. First, we're going to go with correspondence. And Director Saskew, did you get a letter from the Minister of Municipal Affairs?
Thank you, Worship. I did. So this letter is going into detail about the Alberta government helping to secure Alberta's future by investing almost $1 billion to stimulate the economies across the province. In the Ledge meeting, I had presented a memo showing the impact for Vegreville on this letter. So that, in summary, is an additional $50,000, so doubling of our MSI operating grant, as well as an additional $15,000 in funds from the Capital or Canadian Community Building Fund. So that is the impact to Vegreville in some of this letter.
Okay, so everybody's had a chance to read the letter, and doesn't exactly address next year, but we'll see how that municipal framework, the new name for the new grant system works. Okay. Take a motion to receive and file that letter. Councillor Curtis makes the motion. Any comments? All those in favor? Carried. Next up, we have a letter from Mrs. Gaylor Robert, and I'll read it. Here's a quick letter I drafted for council administration to be addressed at the next council meeting. I am addressing the $2.50 mail-out charges for water bills and tax notices. With many seniors in my neighborhood, this certainly is a topic of concern for some. Many seniors do not use email or have internet access. I am advocating for them, as it is viewed as unfair. Many seniors live independently without caregivers. They just don't do online or use internet. I feel, at minimum, there needs to be an exemption for seniors and others who don't use internet. Meet these customers' needs and abilities. Be a senior-friendly town and exempt all seniors. Our seniors on fixed incomes are dealing with unprecedented inflation, extraordinary high groceries, and gas power bills. This timing of adding $30 a year will impact many negatively. I have checked County of Strathcona, City of Edmonton, and Calgary, and no mail-out charges for bills. They also provide their customers with access to online accounts or apps to view bills and payment history. Nobody is forced or penalized if they don't sign on to the online system. Fort Saskatchewan charges $1.50 for water bill mailouts, with an exemption for customers with no internet. They also have an online tool to view bills and payments. They do not charge for mail-out of tax notices. I called. I'm actually in disbelief that anyone would charge to mail out a tax notice. I haven't been given any information on the background of why we have the set charges, but I find them out of line with the few I checked on. The administrator advised a caregiver could help set up an email for a senior without internet. I strongly disagree with this advice. Personally, I would not like a third party to receive my utility bill due to the identity theft. Utility bills are commonly used as secondary proof of identity. Examples being AHCIP, etc. Also, if they opt out not to get a paper bill and are automatically payment, they could come into the office and view the bills on the screen. I totally disagree. If I go to any business, I want a paper copy. I can't imagine being denied. These poor seniors, can you imagine them going over a bill on a town computer screen? What a loss of independence and dignity. They mostly going to pay bills, pay the $2.50 bill charge, that our town feels so necessary to impose on them. They all don't have family in town to set up email bills, nor should the onus be on the customer to go through hoops to see a bill. I believe we can do better. We are a senior community. We have upset many seniors with this forced charge. TELUS waives mailed out charges for seniors. I find these charges high, and have asked administration for comparison over other Alberta communities. Also, the charge of a mail-out tax notice is just unbelievable to me. I have asked administration if any communities in Alberta charge a mail-out fee for the tax notice. Does administration charge to mail out a tax receipt? If somebody mails a check for a payment, where does it stop? Maybe it would be nice to be in line with others. I believe more discussion is needed with the unintentional negative impact felt in our community. As I said, apparently our large cities in Alberta don't feel it necessary to penalize their seniors with others without internet access. Neither do I. It's discrimination of a sector of society. So I'll take a motion to receive and file. Councillor Barry, any discussion?
Well, I have just one. I can understand that there's concerns, although I think that in fairness, we have had a lot of discussion on it. We have also tried to triage it by talking about all the possible ways that we could inform people, give extended time, provide additional options. And the one part that's very hard is I know from multiple charges, and even in my daily job, people will contact us about what a fee or cost is in another municipality, but the problem is there is no regulated standard as to how you have to apply fees. So it's very hard for people from other communities to even know what's been applied. Some don't mark it down. Some add it as an administrative cost. Other ones will put it in as a levy or add it into, some will have an other. There's so many different ways, and I've talked to a number of companies as well when I was looking into it, and some of them said they've just increased it in their overall cost. So it's one thing, it's very difficult because even just looking at another communities doesn't actually say whether or not they charge it. So that's the only thing I would say, is that there isn't really a standard that could help you compare it automatically in that way.
Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe that she makes some very good points, and she lays it out quite well. She has asked some questions which I think deserve answers. The only thing I can say is I don't really believe in charging the seniors for the bill myself, to tell you the truth, except that we have to recognize that any time an administration has an expense, there's only two ways to pay it. One is through taxes, or the other is through a fee. So no matter which way, somebody's going to have to pay for that administrative cost, because that is the role the administration does. They operate the town, but they have to either charge taxes or a fee. So as Councillor Warwa has just said, other communities may not show a fee, but the cost is going to be hidden in their taxes. So to try and be as forthright as we can, we turned to put it as a fee rather than just hide it in the taxes. We can reverse that if we wish and put it in the taxes, but we have to collect the money to pay the costs of mailing out all of those tax notices and water bills. So I'd like to hear some more comments. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Lemko.
Yes, Your Worship. I have the same kind of sentiment as Councillor Barry, but I'd like to refer a question to Director Saskew, if I may. Director Saskew, when we were initially deciding on the decision to impose the fee, you threw some numbers at us regarding the costs associated with the amount of paper, amount of postage that is spent yearly by the town, and I think the reason for our decision was based on that. And again, talking to the pay for that is a tax increase to cover the costs. Can you just throw some numbers back at us?
Actually, I'll cover that. in my rebuttal, I'll give you the answer to that.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
Yeah, I'd like to, I agree with Councillor Barry, but I also want to make note that I think we are a senior-friendly community. I don't see how anyone could say we're not. For a lot of the programs that we actually do have here and going forward, I really can't see us not being a senior-friendly community. We always strive to help with fundraising any way we can. So unfortunately, just like Councillor Barry said, we could hide it in the taxes, but why hide it when we should be forthright with it?
Okay. Well, I do appreciate Mrs. Robert's concern for the small percentage of our seniors in our community who are still living in their homes who do not have an email address, but I do take issue with some in her statement. It wasn't very well thought out. Well, we do not create policies on whims without taking in consideration and outcomes for all taxpayers in our community. I think everybody on council has had a conversation with seniors regarding this issue. Myself, I've met with quite a few individuals, and we have offered options for going paperless. It's not something new. Banks, municipalities, utility companies all have these charges in place. If not this year, when? Next year, the year after? As far as what Edmonton does, I don't know if anybody noticed, but we didn't announce a 5% tax increase this year, 5% tax increase next year, or the following year. If you pay your taxes through the mortgage in the city of Edmonton, you pay $18 a year for that fee. We don't have that here. The average size home in Sherwood Park compared to Vegreville, the same water usage every month is $30 more in Sherwood Park. You can pick apart fees and charges bylaws, but when we're putting a budget together, there are many considerations. And when we're over $70,000 for paper and postage to mail out these utility bills, not counting the time the staff puts in every month getting them ready to the post office, plus the cost of leasing these large copiers / folders for utility bills. Our intent was not to add more burden to a small percentage of taxpayers, but to encourage the majority of residential taxpayers and businesses to go paperless. It's easy to pick out something of a very large budget that you don't agree with, but when you look at our overall fees and charges, we are way below most municipalities. In conversations I've had with seniors who do not have an email address, I've asked them to come to the office with a void check, and we'll set up an instant withdrawal. Or if they'd like to pay at the front desk, if they want a paper copy, it's $1. And most of the time their answer is, oh, I have my insurance set up like that, or I have my other bills set up like that. We have the technology in place to make this happen. And it is the opinion of this council to make every effort we can to cut operational costs while doing our part to protect the environment. It took me 2 minutes to go on the Town of Vegreville website and register for this online billing. Since then, I've taken all my other bills and then done the same. I do not pay for the paper copy anymore. So, it's not something that we took lightly, but we do not pick and choose to change bylaws and fees around to make somebody a target. We are doing this to keep taxes as low as we possibly can. And if you want to pick apart a fees and charges bylaw, I'll put ours up against any municipality in this province. So there is options for seniors, and most of them that I've talked to already do a prepayment plan on some bill or the other. So I thank you for your letter, Mrs. Robert, and your concern for a certain part of the population of our town, but we have also thought about them too, moving forward. And like I said, if not now, when? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to receive and file. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Councillor Rudick, you have a comment?
I just had a question, if I could direct through you, Your Worship, to Megan Saskew, our Corporate Services Director.
Go ahead.
Wondering what the rate of sign-up has been to go to the paperless billing at this point.
Thank you. Our rate of sign up has actually been very well. We've been monthly receiving an additional 400 sign-ups. So we are down to, when I first presented this, we had 2,300 utility bills printed and mailed monthly, and we're down to less than 1,500. So there has been a good uptake on this.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
I'd also like to note too that if we're comparing to the city of Edmonton, if you sign up for this service in the city of Edmonton, they charge you $25. And if you want to stop that, they'll charge you another 25. So, again, when you take apart a fees and charges bylaw and pick out what you think is bad, you should take a look at all of it. So, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Councillor Riddick? Carried.
I'm in favor.
Thank you. Next up is the bowling alley. Go ahead.
I can read this one if it's all
go
right
right
with you,
ahead,
Your Worship.
yes,
Thank you.
please.
Yep. So received on letters dated January 30th, but staff just wanted me to pass along the message that we just received this by email here today. Yeah. So is what it is. So it's appeared on the earliest agenda. We could get it in front of you. So in the past years, the town of Vegreville has promoted our town by contributing lapel pins and writing pins to the Vegreville Bonspiel and the youth events. We are looking at about 275 individuals. We would like to request a donation of Vegreville's lapel pins and writing pens as a support and welcome to Vegreville. We are proud of our town and want it to show. The quantity is at your discretion. Each year, Vegreville Lanes hosts the Vegreville Adult Bonspiel on March 17th, 18th, and 19th, which brings out-of-towners and locals to our town from all over Alberta. These bowlers stay in town and support our local businesses in between their shifts of bowling. They are always exploring Vegreville, and it is great fun. We will advertise the town of Vegreville as a proud community supporter for the month of March and April. Thank you for your support. Kevin Tremblay and Corrine Audie of the Vegreville Bowling Lanes.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to receive and file this letter. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. Any comments? Go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
We've come into this again with some more donation asks for lapel pins, and we have a policy in place. So I think we just need to go to our policy and follow that, like we did with the previous asks and as well as last year.
And that policy is 25 pins to any organized group at one time, because the cost it gets out of hand. So go ahead. Okay. Any other comments? Go ahead, Councillor Barry.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, finish your thought. The pins are $5 each, so it adds up very fast. 275 pins would be very costly to the town, and we don't have that type of supply. I believe a very similar letter to this was received last year, and we had to give the same response at that point in time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So no other comments. All those in favor? Carried. Next up, I guess we don't have Director Lefebvre here tonight.
No, Your Worship, I'll take this on his behalf.
Okay.
So this is just following up from the item from last week's legislative meeting. So the topic is a permit application within the direct control district. The proposal is to have town council consider the development permit application for the demolition of a house which is located within the direct control district. It's proposed by Director Lefebvre. The background is the owner bought the property located at 5141 51st Ave in 2003. The original building was built in 1916 and has extensive damage to the foundation, which is beyond repair. The owner wants to demolish the original building. As stated in the land use bylaw, section 5.19, direct control, council may regulate, control, and apply conditions of approval to the use or development of lands or buildings in any manners, or any manner it considers necessary. The communications strategy will be, number one, review the development. Communication strategies NA, the options are review the development permit application and review and approve development permit with or without conditions, or two, deny the application.
Okay, thank you. Take a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Curtis makes the motion, and you're making a motion to approve. Okay, any discussion? Okay, we all know it's under direct control, and that's why it's here, because we have the final say on that. Councillor Riddick, go ahead.
Your worship, I was just gonna ask that that explanation be provided, and it looks like you've done that already. Thank you.
Okay, no other comment? All those in favor? Carried. CAO Leggett, you're up again.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, topic on this one is GOV-1001, the Developing Policies and Procedures Policy. So, proposals to update GOV-1001 was proposed by Sandra Ling, Legislative Services Manager. The background is, as part of our policy on policies, periodic reviews of all policies and procedures are done to ensure that the policy and/or procedure still reflects the intended purpose and that any changes to the intent of the policy are captured and updated. The review of the developing policies and procedures has led to a few minor formatting changes, department name changes, and minor content changes. The most visible change is the format change that allows the new branding guide for all of our logos and colors, as well as no longer requiring the separate pages for every section within the policy, which keeps them quite a bit shorter. This will streamline the reading process as well. A revisions section has also been added that allows a reader to quickly see how many times this policy has been revised in the past. Our communication strategy on it is, once the revised policy is adopted, an internal memo will go out to all departments to advise of the change to this policy and where in our shared drives they can find both the policy and the templates. The recommendation is that Town Council approve the updated GOV 1001 Developing Policies and Procedures Policy.
Okay, looking for a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Lemko makes the motion. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Roy.
I just wanted to thank administration and our legislative service manager. I recognize that this is kind of a difficult task because it's updating things to keep things within compliance. They're not the exciting bylaws or new procedures, but I know that there's always those recommendations and requirements through the MGA for us to keep going through these items. They're ones that council would probably, in fairness, not see or not recognize needs to be done. So I appreciate that you guys are staying on top of that and making sure that we're on the run. So that's all.
Okay, Councillor Bullock.
Yeah, and further to that follow-up, Councillor Warwas, it's good to see it's shorter. Like, it just takes less time to read through it, and everybody has access to these policies, and they're on the website. You can go in under governance and you'll find it. So it's all there for everybody to read. So it's easy to read. So, and it's also probably shorter by 10 pages. So it's saving a lot of paper and for the environment. So it's a good job on administration. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, councillors. Yeah, along that lines of saving paper, that was one of our goals with this project, to eliminate those blank pages with only one or two lines of text on them. So definitely working.
Okay, we have a motion for a recommendation. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And is communication manager doing the next one? Well, it has your name all over it.
I'll take it if you want to. Sure. Yeah, okay. So this one is another policy adoption, and it's Gov 1006, the social media policy. The proposal is to request the council approve Gov 1006 social media policy. It was proposed by Community Engagement and Economic Development Manager Jameson Brown. The Town of Vegreville's social media policy document establishes the definitions, responsibilities, and standards pertaining to the town's corporate social media use. This document was last revised, reviewed, and approved in 2018, And given the ever-changing social media landscape, in 2022, the town of Vegreville contracted Strong Coffee Marketing's social media consultant to help create an updated policy and procedures document. Overall, the intention of the town's social media use remains the same: to inform citizens while growing the town's brand and reputation. The communication strategy, the updated policy will be added to the town of Vegreville's website. Additionally, workshops will be held with council, management, and staff to both ensure an organizational understanding of the policy's updated procedures document and encourage involvement in content creation in the hopes of having representation from all departments on corporate social media channels. The recommendation of administration is that council approves Gov 1006 social media policy.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Barry makes the motion for the recommendation. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to say that this is probably a more involved policy to get finished with the change in the department and the staff and look at all the differences in social media. I think it's been well done, and I think that we need to say kudos to the staff that were involved. Thank you.
Councillor Rudick.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. It's interesting to see this come back. I feel like we've really come full circle from the first time this came forward. It was still an emerging practice to use social media. I do have some specific questions. I don't know if I direct that to CAO Leggett or to the director. My questions are with regards to items that are used, for example, like photos, etc. There's no reference to who owns or utilizes the products that we might use. It's not included in the definitions. There's lots about responsibilities, etc., but I'm just wondering about that specific question.
Go ahead, CEO.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Councillor Rudick. That's a great question. I know with respect to photos, anything taken by us is essentially our information, of course. So photos of events, municipal facilities taken by town staff or ours to use as we see fit. But I might actually pass it over to the manager to maybe discuss third-party photos, for example, that we might receive.
As it pertains to third-party photos, in the procedures document, it does state that if somebody were to share a photo with us tagging our social media channels, so for instance, if it happens on Facebook or Twitter, one of the key elements of the procedures document is that that information, we're calling it a terms of engagement, will be posted on our website, and under that terms of engagement, it will state that, as long as it's appropriate for the channel, that post essentially becomes the town of Vegreville's not property, but we're allowed to then share that photo, use that photo, and so on and so forth. If we're talking about taking photos of groups or of people in terms of having them sign a release, that probably doesn't necessarily fall under a social media policy. It would probably fall under a freedom of information policy or something along those lines. We're, I know, very careful in terms of our taking photos of people. For instance, we did that drone footage last year. Everybody who's in the drone footage had to sign a release to make sure that we were okay to film them and to use it on social media.
Thank you very much. I just had one more question too, and this is with regards to comparison to the policy that we had previously. Under roles and responsibilities on this version, under 4.0, that section, there's no reference to the responsibility of town staff, how they comport themselves on their own personal social media. So I know that that's perhaps covered by, sorry, I can hear its feedback there, that might be covered under our employee manual and behavior policy.
It's under the employee code of conduct policy. So we addressed that in our last working meeting where we were going through these policies, and that's what we picked out. It's in the employee's handbook, so to say.
Excellent. Thank you for clarifying that and making sure that that was clear to me. I just want to say this is, again, whole picture, and it's interesting to see and coincidental to see the same last name, a different person participating in social media policy this time. But I'm impressed. This is a long time coming. We've been doing this for quite a while, and I'm glad to see where we are right now. Thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Rudick's first question about legalities and stuff, I would imagine this is covered in law itself about what pictures you're allowed to use and without permission. And if somebody sends us a picture, I would imagine that automatically is covered under a law at some type. Go ahead,
Yeah, thanks, Worship. I bumped into something similar in my past travels there too, and the way the law generally interprets it is if somebody presents themselves in a public setting, so a public event, a Canada Day or something like that, they're de facto consenting to be out in a public sphere and we're able to take photos. As the manager mentioned, you know, we try and reach out to folks from time to time if it looks like we've got a cross-section of kids or something like that in the photo, and we do try not to capture that as much as possible, but generally from a legal standpoint, the law interprets it that if you step out into a public space, you're okay being viewed and therefore photographed.
So with the drone footage, they probably had no idea that they were being photographed at the time, and that's why we would have needed.
Yeah, absolutely. We were using the drone footage. We knew we were contracting this for marketing materials. So, for instance, one of the pretty popular pieces of drone footage is a couple of Ukrainian dancers under the Pasika. We didn't just get lucky and happen to catch some Ukrainian dancers. We actually staged that, but we made sure that those dancers had signed the release. Same with, we got drone footage at the pool. It just so happened to be that they were offering swimming lessons, and that youngster's parent and guardian signed off and was more than willing to oblige. Anything like that where we know we're going to be using this, especially for promotional material, we're going to get them to sign a waiver. And obviously there is, as CIO Leggett referred to, going to be the kind of incidental photos where people happen to be in a public space. It's a wide angle. You really have a tough time identifying any one individual at that point. You know, it's kind of fair game because everybody's in the public space.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Warwick.
Yeah, and just to add to that, because we go through this a lot with our work, and yeah, the general practice that they have told us is anytime somebody posts something, first of all, of themselves on social media, once they've posted it, you can share it and move, because basically that's permission being given. If they pose for a photo, the same thing. And then also, like we said, Director Brown said, we are basically if it's not where you're identifying them because it's a dead on, it's a crowd, we were told the same thing. But the other thing is a lot of groups that come in and represent have already signed waivers on the side. So minor hockey, for example, or even through the schools now, when you register the kids, there will actually be a section where you have to check mark that you're giving permission for content. So that includes them being able to put it in papers and whatnot. So I think there's probably a lot of safeguards, but I appreciate that our administration has also taken the step when we know we're going directly.
Okay, well, all good comments, and I too want to thank admin and the department for putting this together. We've been waiting for a social media policy for quite a while, and very happy to have this next vote. So all those in favor? Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, well, I guess it's just council reports left. Is there any other business? Nothing else? Nothing new? Nothing added? Well. So we'll start with Councillor Warwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Probably have a lot of the same ones as everyone else, but going quickly through them, on March 3rd, I attended a number of plaque presentations, including the New and Used, Beauty by Reese, Envy, the Green Box, and H&R Block. And again, people still seem very happy whether they're a new business or one that is being recognized because they've been around prior to our program. They always seem really happy that we're there. So that was great. And I did a little bit of shopping at a few of the places, so that was nice as well. On the 7th, I attended the council workshop with municipal enforcement and then the legislative meeting to follow. On the 8th, I did my Canadian Strategy Group interview. I thought that was very productive, so I had a good conversation, so I was really happy with that process. This weekend, I had an opportunity to take in a few events. I first off went to the Legion for the breakfast. That's actually one thing I haven't gotten to do before, so just a shout out to them. It's really nice to also see the school groups serving it there. It's an excellent deal. I don't know that I'm ever cooking at home for my kids. I'm just going to send them there. And I didn't know they do takeout as well. So we had one person refusing to get out of bed at the time we needed it, so we did a takeout as well. So very nice breakfast at the Legion this weekend, and then popped in, caught some hockey. A few of our minor teams are still in. Caught a U18 that looks like they are making their way to the championship again and will be our provincial reps again, so good for them. That makes 2 years running for the same coach, so shout out to that. And tonight's council meeting.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rudick.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I've submitted my report, and there are many on there that are out of town and online, which seems to be where I am right now, online and out of town. But I was very happy to be able to join some of the plaque presentations with the rest of council on March 3rd. It's nice to see the variety and scope of local businesses that are coming to town, so very happy to be able to welcome some of those. And also did my interview with Canadian Strategy Group that day as well. It was nice to be able to reflect on where we were and where we are going to from when we first started some of our advocacy around making sure that we were very clear about who Vegreville is, who we were, and where we want to be. So I really appreciated the opportunity to be able to share that perspective and answer some of those questions. So happy to see where we're going with our economic development in that regard. I also, on March 7th, when I joined the council workshop, I wasn't able to stick around for the legislative committee meeting, but again, very happy to be able to have some of those conversations, and again, taking a look at the past as well as the present and looking to the future seems to be the tone of the council right now. I'm really enjoying where we are, and happy to join you again tonight for this council meeting. And I will just mention that last week I was able to lead our FCM quarterly board meetings in Ajax, Ontario, and person after person mentioned their interactions with various members of our council. So I will say that there have been some very memorable voices. Some of them are the voice of the mayor, and some are perhaps a little bit more dulcet tones, like Councillor Warwa, but also Councillor Lemko. I met people that had met all three of you in different settings, including some that met Councillor Lemko at the Canada Winter Games or the Junior Games, whatever you were just at, Councillor Lemko. So didn't have to go very far to find people that were familiar with Vegreville. So happy to be able to represent Vegreville, represent FCM, and also hear about some of my colleagues and friends back at home. And that is my report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Curtis.
Thank you. For me, so March 3rd, plaque presentations as well. The 6th, I did my survey, the stakeholder interview. On the 7th, the municipal enforcement workshop and ledge meeting. And I think that we're moving forward in a positive way with our municipal enforcement right now. Some new people on board, and I'm looking forward to how that's going to roll out and be perceived in the town. And then we have tonight's council meeting. That is all for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Lemko.
Thanks, Your Worship. On March 1st, I took a webinar in with Alberta Council regarding the budget discussion. And so they laid out some of the findings from the budget that was presented the day before. March 7th, I had also had an interview with the Canadian Strategies Group. Interesting questions, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results of those questions answered by all of council. The 7th was also the council workshop with municipal enforcement and the strategy planning. Again, I like what's the direction we're heading with that, and there's going to be a strategic plan in place. It's March 7th, also the ledge meeting. March 8th, I attended the Vegreville Stands with Ukraine committee meeting. I have some just some things to point out. To date, there's been about 903,000 Canadian-Ukraine authorization for emergency travel visa applications out. The approval rate for those visa applications is 99%. That's how many people have applied to come to Canada from Ukraine. Of those, there's right now we have 25, close to 25,000 individuals residing in Alberta from that. An item to note, Natalia Toroshenko is our government advocate and a director with UCC. She made a comment regarding the monies that were the Alberta government funding $7 million over 3 years for settlement, education, and that. Comment she made that struck me kind of funny was that because we're not a settlement agency here, nor do we have a settlement agency here, none of those funds will reap out this way for our settled Ukrainians here. Now, I intend to follow up on that because that's alarming that that won't happen for these Ukrainians that are settled here. And again, the costs are going up. The medical fees for the doctors are charging $250 now to have a medical per person that needs it within 90 days of arriving in Canada. Our housing team continues to find houses for the displaced Ukrainians that are here. We have more now. We're leaning towards now is to assisting with the families that are here with bringing their families here, their extended families. We had an interesting thing. We had a request from a family that's living in Edmonton, so a father, mother, and a young child. And then the mother's in-laws lived in another apartment in Edmonton. So they have 2 apartments. They commute to work in Vegreville every day, 360 kilometers round trip. It's unaffordable, the housing costs in Edmonton for them to even exist. They don't have time, nor do they have the finances. So they reached out to our committee to see if we could possibly assist them with finding a place to live in our community because they're working here. And so those are the kind of things that what the Stand With Ukraine committee does. Many reach out to us, and the committee itself look at ways to accommodate as much as we can the needs of those people. We had the vigil, candlelight vigil at the Easter egg at our park, and many people attended that in the bitter cold to pay tribute to those Ukrainians who are displaced and those back in Ukraine are fighting a war that is totally wrong. That same night, we opened our online auction, donations from the community. That online auction ran for 3 days. We raised a total of $13,000 on the online auction. Many businesses supported us and donated to us. Those people who chose not to donate an item donated cash in the sum of $6,250. This community cares, and we'll continue to work as much as we can to support those people who are displaced. And that's my report, Your Worship.
Well, thank you very much, and again, good job to that whole committee. And you know what? When we had the announcements here, the provincial government and other members of the Canadian Ukrainian Congress were saying that how they use what this committee does as a model for other communities to set up and try to assist with these displaced Ukrainians. So again, we all are very thankful for them. So, Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too attended most of the same meetings as my fellow councillors. On March the 1st, the Vermilion River Watershed Alliance, we held a special meeting, a board meeting, where we dissolved as a society status. We have not dissolved the alliance. It will remain functioning as it has in the past. It's just a society status because as a sub-watershed to the North Saskatchewan River Watershed Alliance, we don't really need to be a society. And it is cost saving because we don't have to do the annual reports. We don't have to keep our own website. We don't have to keep all of our own records and et cetera. All of that can be handed over, and just like the Headwaters Alliance and the Sturgeon River Alliance, the Vermilion Alliance will now be under one umbrella with the North Saskatchewan River Water. So it actually is a cost savings, a time savings, but it doesn't change the work that we're doing. So I think that we thought in 2015 that it was essential for us to be a society in order to run large projects. But we have since discovered that it is actually more efficient to be under the umbrella of the North Saskatchewan Alliance. And now if funding comes, it can be shared between all three rather than just one. So it'll work out to be a benefit in the long run. The plaque presentations on the 3rd, I too found it very interesting to go to a number of businesses that I didn't actually even realize were in town. And it was very pleasant to meet the people that are setting up local businesses in town. The council workshop, I thought I'll agree that I think that that's moving the right direction in municipal enforcement. Ledge meeting on the 7th as well. I did my interview with Canadian Strategies Group on the 8th. Quite a number of questions. I thought they were very thorough, very pleasant. I think that it's going to be a well-done report when they finish it off and in tonight's council meeting. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bullock.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, on March 1st, had a Vegreville and District Chamber of Commerce board meeting. So an event of note coming up that everyone should pay attention to, and any business in this town that's real important for. On behalf of the Vegreville District Chamber of Commerce in partnership with Town of Vegreville, there is going to be on April 12th, the Multi-Industry Career Fair from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m. at the Vegreville Social Center. So there's been a lot of talk about hard to find employment, or hard to find people for businesses for employment. So it's a really good thing, this job fair. It's something that hasn't been done in a long time around here. So it's a good thing. This letter or email went out to businesses. So hopefully there will be a big response and head on down to the social center that day. That's going to be a really good thing. Check out the chamber website and the Facebook page. There's some information on also a hockey draft coming up as well. That's going to be at the Vegreville Legion. So that's going on March 7th, council workshop, municipal enforcement. I like where we're heading with that. That was a really good session for us. March 7th, our legislative committee meeting. March 9th, I as well took part in the Canadian Strategy Group interview. Really good questions. I think heading in that direction, just finding out where everybody's at is really drawing our team together and working better together. And tonight's town council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Regarding the upcoming job fair, I hope that they've reached out. I supplied them with the contact with Lakeland and Portage, hopefully, because both of those post-secondaries offer a heavy-duty equipment operator course, and we're always in. So hopefully we'll be hanging around there too, then trying to attract some young talent. Or talent, doesn't matter what age they are, as long as they can run a machine. Okay, thank you, Councillor Bullock. So, oh, go ahead.
Oh, Your Worship, sorry to interrupt, but yeah, just because a lot of you have mentioned it there, that job fair, I have spoken to HR, and the town is going to have a booth at it there as well, both to support the chamber and the local initiative. So we may not have any jobs available at the time. We got a couple of recruitments out there right now. Those may or may not close between now and then, but whether or not we have anything open, it'll be, hey, have you ever considered a career in, the municipality kind of thing? So we feel it's an important initiative, and we'll be there to support it for sure.
Sure. I mean, myself personally, I would like to have something there that says, what does a job at parks facilities look like? What does a job at public works, admin, and in different departments, because, when people are in post-secondary and they're choosing a path, especially in the trades and stuff like that, knowing that there's always the availability to stay in this community and work is good. Go ahead, Councilor Warwick.
I was just gonna say to that, I know that in conversation we had with Director Lefebvre before, we had said that we were happy to see the town bringing on through some of the colleges or universities or NAEP programs when somebody is doing their internship, and we've had somebody come back and do their intern time here at the town. So, and then sometimes it turns out to that person will stay on and becomes a full-time employee. So I think that's wonderful, and that's certainly something, if we have people going around letting them know that there's a department with our HR now to reach out and ask that question, because I think a lot of people don't realize that maybe there would be a chance for an internship, and a lot of times that's a win-win. Quite often it's not costing the finance resource to the community that's hosting them, and sometimes if they start here, they stay here, so it's good to see.
For sure. And I would imagine as we are attracting more industry to Prosperity Park, that we'll be looking to host one of these again in the near future. I mean, millwright will be a big trade in all these industries, and there'll be, especially in the composite sides and stuff like that, there'll be a lot of good jobs available here in the next couple of years, so. Okay, well, I've basically been at everything everybody else has been at. The only difference is I had a water commission meeting on the 8th, and on the 7th I traveled to Edmonton for the leaders' dinner, and made my rounds talking to the ministers that were there and let them know exactly what Vegreville's needs are in this upcoming next couple of years. And again, it was all positive conversation, and really enjoyed my evening. So that's what we have for tonight. There's no director's reports, no CAO report. Wow, I feel bad for Miss Barry. Came all the way here and ended up one of our most boring meetings.
We didn't get into anything.
Nothing. Well, if there's no other business of council, I would adjourn this meeting at 7:53. Nobody moved. We're still on TV.